now.
Okay.
All right, I think we are live. What is going on, everybody? Randall Thor, 19, the man with the million, back again with another Xbox 2 podcast. And with me, as always, Jez Corden of Windows Central has had a very long day, but thankfully we're able to get the podcast going. What's going on, Jez? How you doing? How you feeling?
Oh god, I'm exhausted. It's been a long week, man. Microsoft constantly dropping news. The game industry just constantly dropping news. It's like it's weird because usually GDC's behind closed doors. So like this is the kind of info that I usually have to dig for and leak, but this year it's just all out in the open.
Mm-hmm.
And it's killing me slowly from lack of sleep. But
You'll
yeah,
be
man.
good.
Like I had to go to sleep before we did the show today, or I'd just be completely dead. So I'd like just come out of a 2-hour nap, and I was not feeling great.
We had
Yeah,
to
we
do
had
the show.
to. We had to do the show,
because
man.
like everything's known now. No more rumors about hardware specs. No more 15 teraflop PS5s and whatever other thing people want to make up. Everything is known about both consoles. The only things that we don't know are obviously the most important: the price, the release date, the games. But yeah, all the specs are out there. We have a lot to talk about, and it's not going to be tech focused. Like, we'll talk about it, but like I kind of want to delve more into some of the things, like how it'll benefit like the consoles and stuff, because I just don't want it to be like, well, teraflops, because that's not what me and Jez are all about. Yeah, if you guys could do us a favor, though, make sure you guys hit the like button and share out the podcast. And even though this is like a big, hey, everything's out there, Sony and Microsoft finally talking about their stuff, it's still a regular podcast, which means we're gonna be talking about games before we get into the big topics. Mine won't be that long because I only played Ori and the Will of the Wisps again. I captured some footage for you guys. That's the new overlay that Sean Labrie is working on for the podcast. You're going to be tweaking a little bit, so it's not going to look exactly like that. So it's going to look better, but he's an artist, so it's gonna basically it's gonna get a lot better. Trust me on that. So Ori, Jez, I beat it again. It was just as good as the first time. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So I did another run, and I beat it without dying. I beat it in 3 hours and 30 minutes. I beat it without equipping a shard, and I beat it without spending any energy. All in the same run.
Is that Achievo?
Those are all achievements, but wouldn't you know it, the day one patch broke all the endgame achievements? So I don't have it. They broke the achievement for beating the game, and they broke like all the achievements for everything else. So that's the only game I've played. Basically, I did another run through of Ori. And I'm probably going to be starting a hard run-through of Ori 2 pretty soon. I love the game. I still think it's a masterpiece. I didn't have any save issues this time around, my second time, so that obviously really helped out. I actually had a little bit more performance problems with like when I played it now. There was a little bit more slowdown than there was when I played it pre-patch, where there wasn't as much, but there was more save issues. But like, I'm still blown away by that game. But yeah, that's me. That's Ori 2. I know you talked about a game that you played last week where you couldn't mention, and I'm pretty sure you can mention it now. Why don't you tell the fine folks at home what you were spending your time on?
Doom Eternal.
So what do you think?
Yeah. Well, actually, 2 games. I was playing Doom Eternal and Wasteland 3, which both the embargoes on both have lifted now. But Doom Eternal, man, is like it's funny because like there was no hype for the review embargo for Doom Eternal like there was for Ori. And I think it's because everybody kind of knows and expects what it's going to be like. And for the most part, that's pretty much true. It plays very similarly to Doom 2016. However, the gunplay is sort of like dialed up and I went back and did side-by-side comparisons with the other game to see if I was crazy, but like there's way more gore in Doom Eternal. So like when you shooting monsters and stuff, like huge bits of flesh are ripping off from their bodies, and like but they still keep coming at you, even though like they're basically walking on their bones and stuff. It's crazy, and it gives the weapons a much bigger sense of impact and stuff like that. And also you've got like the flamethrower shoulder mounted thing, and grenade launcher, ice grenades, and a bunch of other fun tools to play with, and the chain, I don't know what it's called. I don't even know what it's called now, but it's like the super shotgun, but like it has a grappling hook on it. Like that's like the coolest shotgun in the history of gaming, probably. It's so much fun to use. You can like slingshot yourself up in the air and then like flip around in slow motion and shoot a demon in the face. It's a lot of fun. However, I had one major gripe with it.
Mm.
They added loads of platforming to it for some reason, and it's clunky, horrible Recore style platforming, where like actually I'd say it's probably even worse than Recore, because at least Recore like had a focus on it. Like this sort of feels like bolted on. Like it has like double jump from the other game, fair enough, and then but then it's got the double dash from Recore, and it's even got like rings that boost you as well, and another power ups. And oh man, and Doom Guy scurries up walls like an ant, like Tomb Raider style puzzling. It's nobody asked for that. I certainly didn't ask for that, and it doesn't add anything to the game. All it does is like, oh, by the way, here's a road bump onto the next bit of carnage. So I hated that a lot, and it actually made me knock a point off the score because I thought it was so bad. But other than that, it's incredible. And so if you like Doom 2016, you're gonna love Doom Eternal. There's not much.
I really
else,
like Doom
much more else to it.
2016. So outside of the platforming, you think Doom Eternal is a much better, like, all-around game? Like, better weapons, better enemies, better locations? Like, is it like that much better?
I think like again, I went back to compare it to Doom 2016 a lot, and I feel like the levels are a lot more linear in this one as well. There's less exploration, and there's still loads of secrets to find and stuff, but they're all part of that linear path through the game. It feels like this feels like more gauntlet based. There's only one route through each level, which is fine. You know, it's all about the demon killing ultimately, but I felt like I preferred the layouts of Doom 2016 a lot more, and I hated that platforming, man. But the gunplay is like 2 steps forward, but the level design's like a step backwards. So overall, I think like it's. I mean, oh, and the graphics are just so much better than 2016 as well. Like I didn't even realize how much of an improvement the engine got. Like in Doom 2016, you got like all this like texture popping and stuff like that. There's not really anything like that in Doom Eternal. Like they've really up the ante on the engine. So overall, I think it is like a lot more fun, but I don't know. It somehow felt less ambitious at the same time. It's hard to describe. But basically, if you liked Doom 2016, you're gonna love Doom Eternal. That's pretty much all there is to it. Other than that, I played the first hour of Wasteland 3, which I won't go into too much detail because I'm not sure many people are super interested in that who listen to this. But I like my turn-based strategy games.
You love your turn-based strategy games. So
I'm the thing that I love about Wasteland is that they really sort of double down on that old school your choices matter. Like even in like the first like 15 minutes of the game, there's like the throws choices at you, like dialogue choices, and it's like, oh, if you've got high first aid, you can get this extra pathway and these secrets, and it just throws so many options at you, this game does. And it doesn't dial anything back from Wasteland 2 either. It's like it's still the full breadth of role-playing goodness that I feel like Fallout has lost. Like Fallout 4's dialogue trees were a joke. Like there were like 3 options: no, 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 yes, and they all led to the same outcome, except for like a few key decisions in the game. So like, I love that the decisions matter so much in Wasteland 3. Whether or not you like the turn-based gameplays, like it's not for everyone, obviously. But I feel like Wasteland could eventually get that leap into a more action-oriented game in the future. You know, like Fallout 3 ditched the turn-based stuff and went towards a full shooter. I feel like Wasteland could maybe one day do that as well. I don't see why not, as long as they keep that sort of format. Like how Obsidian has Pillars of Eternity for the old school fans, and then like the Outer Worlds for like New Vegas and stuff. I feel like In Exile can maybe do that someday. But I love the IP. I love what they're doing with it. My preview's up on Windows Central if you're interested in Wasteland 3. I loved it.
So
I'm really excited for that game.
what do you think In Exile's doing for the next project? I know they hired one of the combat designers from Sony Santa Monica who worked on God of War. And to me, when you hire a guy like that, you're not doing an RTS for your next game. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. Well, RTS is a different genre.
Or, you know, you're not like doing a game like Wasteland or Gears Tactics. It's definitely got to be something different.
Yeah. It's I think like because they've got their other big franchises, Bard's Tale, which is kind of like old school dungeon crawler. I feel like that could maybe go down the route of something more traditional, Oblivion, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, maybe. But at the same time, it's hard to say. I think like the cool thing about In Exile is the tone and the writing of their games. Like Wasteland 3, like the dialogue is hilarious, but also while also managing to maintain this sort of really dark, gritty sort of main plot points and stuff. So they nail that like so consistently and so concisely. The writing is just top notch in that game. And like I don't know if you've tried playing Bard's Tale 4, but my god, it is rough. It's a rough game. But now that like they're expanding and they're with Microsoft and they can hire in like top tier staff, like that chap from God of War, it's they can apply that world building prowess and sort of bring sort of AAA modernization to their games. I think In Exile could like really become something special and like become a pillar studio for Microsoft because they've got that amazing core of great writing and storytelling, world building, but they've just never had the technical ability to back it up. And I think like now that you know they could end up going that direction.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they're working on next. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for the games played segment. You played Doom Eternal, which you recommend highly. I think you gave it a 9, right? Or a 4 out of 4.
Yeah, I gave it a 9, yeah.
So, I mean, it's getting really it's weird. You know what's weird with Metacritic? Like nobody's even talking that Doom is right at a 90. Nobody even mentions it.
No. Nobody mentions it.
But Ori, you know, people are making bets about it. Shout out to Kofi and J-Main and BG and Jay Bari. They're making bets about it against the other PlayStation exclusive Dreams. Like, it's like for multiplats, nobody cares what the game.
Nobody cares.
But for the exclusives, it's like this huge fight. I always find that pretty interesting. That like,
well, put it this way: my review for Ori got roughly 800% more traffic in the first 12 hours than my Doom Eternal review did.
Maybe people just knew they wanted to play Doom Eternal, and they're like, I don't really need a review, you know? But yeah.
But it's always the case, though. Like, Gears 5 review did way better than some of the multi-plat reviews. I don't know why, but like the exclusives are always more controversial, and people want to like, on both sides, quote unquote, sides. They want to know like, oh god, how well did this exclusive do, you know? Because exclusives are part of your investment in a console's ecosystem. So there always seems to be more interest in that. So like you know, Doom Eternal was great. You should buy it. You should go and buy it.
And I got to give a shout out to Nuisance in the super chat. He says the ending of Ori is beautiful. It certainly is. I love everything about Ori except for the tech problems it has, and I recommend everybody play that game, whether you play it on Xbox or probably the best place to play it if you do want no problems is Steam, right? On the PC. More than likely that. But before we move on to like the big topics, obviously Xbox revealed everything about Series X, and PlayStation just had their kind of first look at the PlayStation 5. I just want to say, like, no matter where you know, side, you know, everybody's got a preference for what they like: PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, PC. I just wish for everybody out there, you know, to be safe and remain healthy in this time of crisis across the, you know, United States, the whole world. It's really getting scary out there with the virus. And I want to wish each and every one of you, like, stay safe. I hope you're healthy. I hope everybody that you know stays healthy. Because sometimes when you focus on things and you read the news and you hear about how doom and gloom it can get, you know, like, I'm just like, man, are we about to be on the verge of this? But, like, that's real life, and that's so important. And, you know, like, this, yeah, this is video games, and we all love talking about all this stuff, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Like, please, people, be safe. Like, don't, I know, like, the virus says this is mostly old people and stuff like that, but, like, take care of yourself, take care of your family, you know, like, it's just crazy, and I don't know what, like, the world's gonna be like, you know, 2 weeks from now, let alone, like, 6 months from now and stuff like that. Like, so I wish everybody the best. And yeah, Jez, you got anything to say? I mean, this is kind of getting scary territories here.
Yeah, it's spooky. I'm just trying to keep my head down and work. You know, it's spooky. That's all I say. I don't like what's going on.
Spooks.
You know, like,
yeah.
my parents are, you know, in the 60s, and they're pretty vulnerable to the illness, you know, underlying conditions as well. So I think a lot of people sort of our age are worrying about family more than themselves right now. So it's but thank God for gaming at the end of the day.
And for any of the mods, if anybody, like, does what that guy just did, or any bullshit in the chat, just hide them. I don't want to deal with that stuff. I don't want to see that stuff. You can give them a warning with the timeout. They do it again, just get rid of them. Like, you know, so just swing the hammer. But what do you want to talk about? I suppose we'll talk about Xbox first. Or do you even want to compare both of these? I guess we'll compare them in a little bit, but I just kind of want to talk about Xbox first because, well, we are Xbox gamers. This is our primary platform. And they did some reveals. They had Digital Foundry and they had Austin Evans fly out there, and they each kind of took a look at the console. They got to put it together. They got to show some demos. Xbox put out a what did they put out? They put out a quick loading demo, the quick resume demo, and a loading demo to show the difference. And when you watched it, I was like, okay, the Digital Foundry one was a bit dry, but to be expected. Like, Richard and John, I mean, that's what they are. Like, they're there to break down the tech stuff. And while it was interesting to listen to, because they definitely sound really excited, Austin Evans really, you know, YouTuber with 4 million subscribers, he at least made that kind of talk more exciting. And this is what they came out with. Like, the Xbox Series X is 8 cores at 3.8 gigahertz, but then 3.6 if it is see, the tech stuff isn't my forte, so I'm not even going to... I really can't explain most of this stuff, but I'll just read it off. GPU's 12 teraflops, like Jez said it was. It's got 16 gigabytes of GDR6. The memory bandwidth is 10 at 560 and 6 at 336. The internal storage is a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD with an expandable storage, etc., etc., etc. What'd you think about the way that Microsoft went about it? All right, I think we are live. What is going on, everybody? Did you enjoy the way that they did it? Now, keep in mind, I don't want to get, like, the PlayStation thing revealed today to cloud your judgment in any way. But how do you think Microsoft has gone about talking about the Series X to people?
Well, obviously, the virus that shall not be named has disrupted, I think, both companies in how they were going to present this to the public. So, like, the fact that they sort of came out at all at relatively short notice and pivoted their marketing to digital and digital events and stuff after all that's been going on is pretty admirable. And you got to think about like all the marketing staff and the people at the engineers who've made that sort of happen and made that information in available to be relayed at short notice. It's probably going to have an effect on both companies, but I think Microsoft did a pretty good job. They always tend to go with third parties to validate what they're saying, because if it comes from Microsoft, there's already sort of an air of like, well, obviously they're going to say it's powerful because it's Microsoft and it's their product. Obviously they're going to say it's powerful. But if you've got Digital Foundry and then Austin Evans also saying it's powerful, also verifying that they've seen it, it makes it all feel a little bit more real. And it's it landed well. I think all the stuff they did and said landed well. And then like it leaves it for people like me to sort of go through it and put it in writing and pick up some of the pieces. Like, for example, what the hell happened to the optical audio port? I got I got a lot of people in my mentions talking about the optical audio port being gone now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you saw, but they some of the prototypes still have the optical audio port.
But on the final retail one, it will not be there, right? You got confirmation on that?
Yeah, we got confirmation, and IGN got confirmation. The optical audio port is gone. So if you're someone who uses like the Astro A50 headset or the Astro, or the Turtle Beach audio controller or the Astro audio controller, you either have to plug those optical audio devices directly into the TV. And I've never tried that before, so I don't know if it, screws up latency. I guess I should do that at some point. All those devices will have to be updated to use USB instead, which results in you losing some functionality. So it kind of sucks for those of us who use optical. Like a lot of high-end headsets and sound systems use optical, and also like considering Microsoft like has pushed Dolby Atmos so much. It's kind of like, well, you pushed Dolby Atmos. I went out and bought this crazy, Dolby Atmos 32 speaker sound setup with a speaker controller, and now you're telling me optical audio is not there? Like, what are you doing?
Well, what's weird? So for me, I use the Astro A50s, right? And I love the A50s. They're wireless. I actually have my optical plugged into my TV. My
oh, you do?
Yeah. Well, so that way I can actually use the headset on the PlayStation, and I can use the headset on the Switch when I switch, the inputs, right? Like the sound still comes over the TV to my headset, and I can still be in party chat on Xbox talking to my friends in party if I want to be. So, I mean, it still works for me. Of course, that's assuming I get another TV that has an optical to it. But yeah, it is weird. And the other thing that is obviously making a lot of people upset is memory cards. You have, if you want, I guess we need to explain this, right? We need to explain this because there's a lot of misinformation going around. So there's a 1 terabyte SSD NVMe inside, and Microsoft is allowing you to plug in your old external USBs to the back of the Xbox, right? And you can put your Xbox One games on there, you can put your Xbox Series X games on there, you can put your 360 games on there, and your OG Xbox games on there, right? However, you can only play the Xbox One, the 360, and the OG Xbox games from those external hard drives. If you want to play an Xbox Series X game, they have to be played from either from the internal 1 terabyte SSD or these new external 1 terabyte cards that they're going to be selling with partnership with Seagate. So you can't play your Series X games from the older, USBs. And it has people feeling a bunch of different ways about it because, I'm going to say the word wrong, like that type of tack, people remember what it did with the Vita, overpriced, so you look at it like this and you're like, damn, 1 terabyte SSD, and it's only being sold by Seagate. How much are we talking here? $200, $250? It could be really pricey considering they're the only ones. And then he's like, well, what about the people who play a lot of games and want to be able to jump in between? But they're basically saying maybe you can just want to, store them on your external SSD and move them back and forth. And especially with Sony allowing you to use your own SSDs, although like I don't even think they're really out yet, right? I saw something about that, but how do you feel about that, Jazz? How do you feel about the I can't even say that word. I'm not even going to try.
Proprietary.
There's a certain words. I always say this, and I know we have a whole bunch of people watching, but I used to go to speech therapy when I was a kid for like my entire like grammar school. First 4 years, I had a speech problem, and there's this certain combinations of words that I do not say very well, and I especially do not say well when like I'm trying to talk fast. So I'm sorry, sometimes I screw up words, and you've been listening to me for a while on the channel, you know that happens all the time. But I'm not, it's like I get what they're, see the thing here for me, I'm gonna give my opinion first, is like, man, I understand why they're doing it, because of the speeds they want to hit with those SSDs, and watching the quick resume and the loading, it's like, okay, I understand why they're doing it, it's not bull, right? But then there's a part of me that's just like, man, am I really gonna have to pay $250 for like an external like thing that only Seagate sells? I'm not upset in any way. Because I know that in the long run, this is going to be for the better. You don't want to compromise on anything like they compromised with the original Xbox One. But it is weird how we went from like, okay, plug in whatever you want, to now it's like, no, you need to, basically you want to play Xbox Series X, the game's got to be on this thing, right?
Well, this happens like when tech advances. This happens. Like you have to go proprietary until like a standard comes up, right? And like take Apple's lightning cable, for example. Like for ages, Apple's like lightning cable was the only way they could achieve what they wanted to achieve with their hardware, was to make a proprietary cable. But now like the rest of the standards have caught up, and you've got the European Union saying like, why do you still go with your lightning cable when you can just have USB-C or Thunderbolt or whatever? So like for Microsoft and Sony, they've sort of the NVMe SSDs are the big advancement this gen, and it's going to change the game for like suspending games, asset streaming, and a bunch of other stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So they have to go with proprietary. So I'm struggling to say it now. Mm-hmm. They have to go with these cards, because those standards aren't really there yet. And you know, I talked about like we got the information that weird slot on the back of the Xbox Series X was indeed for storage. And I got rumors from people that it was designed for CF Express SSDs.
Well, originally people were saying that it was a debug port and all this stuff, remember?
Yeah, like no one knew what the port was. And Microsoft was like smart, maybe blanking out and stuff like that. But I had no idea what that port was for. Like people said it was like a facet port or a debug port, something for like proprietary debugging tools. But now we know it's for proprietary storage devices. And I was like, people were saying that it's exactly the same size as a CF Express standard. And those CF Express cards ain't cheap. They are bloody expensive. You're talking about like hundreds of dollars just for like a few hundred gigabytes. Now, you said earlier that Seagate having a monopoly on this is going to drive up the price, but actually having an exclusive deal might be the only way Microsoft was able to get the price down. And there might have been like, okay, well, if you want us to manufacture these devices for you, you have to give us an exclusive, otherwise we need to jack the price up, because we're going to be taking like slim margins on these.
I guess you're right. And they did say they're exclusive launch partners, so there might be down the road other partners like Samsung who will come in and make their own. And then maybe eventually it'll be more than 1 terabyte. It'll be 2, it'll be 4, as like the tech, more people make it and more people adopt it, and drive the price down a little bit on that.
I mean, do you remember like when I was a kid, like you could get like memory sticks that had like 2 megabytes of storage, or like, and then it went to like, oh, by the way, now it's got a gigabyte of storage.
Look how far by the way,
Yeah, look how far we've gone, and now you can get like a terabyte USB drive.
Yeah.
So it's funny how like tech advances, and right now we're at the edge of now we're like the edge of a new dawn in storage speeds, and to get there we need these proprietary cards, and Sony's going to do this, and and Sony said that you can use any NVMe drive,
No,
but it has to be certified by them.
It has to be certified by them, but it was like M2 or something. Like I was reading about it, but it has to be certified by them, and there's really not that many out right now, so who really knows? But
Yeah, exactly.
We got a
like
question
you
from
have to sort of
from Sin
sorry.
Vendetta, and he says, "Rand, when I asked you 2 weeks ago about Digital Foundry partnering with the Xbox and the Series X, did you know that they were actually going to do that?" Yes. Yeah, I knew Digital Foundry was there, and that's why I teased that something was happening, because the information on Monday was supposed to come out last week, and then E3 got canceled, and Microsoft didn't want to put the information out there alongside the cancellation of that. So they basically pushed it to the following week. But yeah, I had heard that Digital Foundry was there. I didn't know anything about Austin Aries. Or Austin Aries is a wrestler. I didn't know anything about Austin Evans.
Austin Aries.
I had heard that like they were there to see Series X and Lockhart. Obviously, Series X they've already broke it all down, and I'm assuming they probably saw Lockhart as well. There's a clip of Richard kind of saying Xbox Series S, and then he quickly says X. So maybe they saw that, and maybe we get information about that soon. But yeah, I sometimes I just don't like talking publicly. I'm not looking for like credit. I'm not one of those people that was just like, I told you, or whatever. Like I just like teasing, because you never know what happens. Like I remember not that long ago, but I put up a
like
poll.
I heard there was going to be hardware stuff, but I thought maybe it was Lockhart. So that's why I like reiterated my Lockhart leaks, because I was like, oh, by the way, random thought. Here's my Lockhart leaks from recently. And because I thought it was going to be Lockhart, but I didn't know it was going to be a deep dive, but that's what we got. Right. I think like Lockhart's coming soon, though. I do think that.
How soon do you think? Do you think maybe next week?
I have no idea. I think like Lockhart's the big mystery, because not only is it's a strategic play. Lockhart is. It's a strategic play. It's like we've got this super console and we've got this like cheaper console, and I think like the story with Lockhart is going to be its price, and we're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to position that strategy until the price of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are out there. Unless Lockhart has a unique form factor, which.
All right, you've gone over, like, Jez thinks Lockhart. We've talked about this on the podcast. Jez thinks Lockhart is a Switch-like handheld that, when docked, is going to hit the 4 teraflop rumor.
No.
Yes.
I don't think that. It's just a theory, so don't go telling everyone I think that. But like, I've got this crazy theory that Lockhart might be more than just a normal Xbox console. I've got a crazy theory that maybe Lockhart is something a bit special. I could be totally wrong. It's just sort of gut feeling. I don't really have any evidence. But like, you can't get... I know... Basically, my 12 teraflops Xbox leak from like last November was completely accurate. Like, I got the RAM right, I got the CPU right, and I got the teraflops right. The information that came from that Anaconda leak also talked about Lockhart, which and the fact that all the Anaconda stuff turned out to be accurate, that for me says that all the Lockhart stuff is accurate, and Lockhart is supposedly 4 teraflops. You can't get 4 teraflops into a handheld with today's tech unless Microsoft has some sort of
Well,
Wizard magic.
the Anaconda is actually on the motherboard, right? Of
Yeah, it
Series
is.
X.
Yeah, it is. And there's little Master Chief
There's
stamped
a little
into
Master
it.
Chief on the fan. All right.
Yeah.
So you think? All right. I'm gonna. And I see some people in the chat talking about it. I see Mega Bad Seed and everybody. Shout out to all the people in chat like Greg and Pixelbit and Lethal and all the guys in chat. Always here, Gunstar, Obi-Wan. We appreciate everyone being here. We're way over 1,000 people. So you can do us a favor, hit the like button, share this bad boy out. But I'm going to go on record right now. Like, I don't like going on record. You know, I went on record with Horizon Zero Dawn going to PC, and people jumped me for it because they didn't want to believe it, right? But, like, I knew like, I don't know. I don't like putting this stuff, like, Lockhart, number one, is not a handheld, Jess. Sorry to burst your bubble. Sorry to burst your... It is a regular console, and I think it's just going to look like the Series X, but smaller. It's just going to be a 4 teraflop machine, and to do 1080p, 1440p, and it's going to be retail around $299 or $349. I mean, I understand why you like the Switch handheld idea because it's really cool and it's like, wow, that would be totally crazy and stuff. But
I have the reason I have this idea is because I have seen lines of code which suggest Lockhart renders fonts and Xbox dashboard elements differently to the regular Xbox operating system and the Xbox Series X operating system. So why would Lockhart need to render fonts at a different size unless it was looking for a specific screen display size? Now, it could be nothing, which is why I'm saying, like, take this with a pinch of salt. But like, it's fun to speculate, you know. It's fun to think about it, you know. For me, I think that's fun to think about because it follows the whole xCloud narrative. It follows the whole Xbox, play your games anywhere, streaming narrative and stuff like that. And Game Genie Prime says in chat, Dell's got its UFO concept Switch, which is like a powerful gaming tablet PC thing. I just want to believe, Rand. I don't really have any real information. I don't have anything on paper that suggests it's a handheld.
I
just
know you want
to
believe.
believe.
And it's weird that we're in a show where we're supposed to be talking about everything that confirmed about Series X. We went into a tangent about what Lockhart may be, which is what...
Well, Lockhart's the final piece of this whole puzzle.
It is the final piece of the puzzle.
Final piece of this puzzle.
It is. And then
the final piece of this puzzle.
All your leaks would have been right. You'd have been like, I nailed it completely all the way. When did you first originally report all this stuff?
Well, I didn't leak. First of all, I have not leaked that Lockhart is a handheld.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm talking about when Lockhart was
a crazy
code name.
That's a crazy... Lockhart being a handheld is a crazy fantasy. I'm not saying that it's a handheld. But it was actually my colleague, Zach Bowden, first, who got the Scarlet code name years ago. We had Scarlet codename God, I can't even remember how long ago. But if you go on Windows Central, if you search for Windows Central Scarlet, Zach was covering Project Scarlet's codename as part of our Windows Core OS leak coverage, which by the way now is known as Windows 10X and it's all public and stuff like that. So we've been leaking this stuff for a long time, and the whole sort of Lockhart 4 teraflops, Anaconda 12 teraflops thing, that was the culmination of this series of leaks last November, So, man, I also got the Elite controller too, having internal battery correct as well, by the way.
And so Angel in the super chat says, if Lockhart is a handheld, I'm getting the Series X and Lockhart day one. Please let it be a handheld.
Well, that's the thing. If it is a handheld, you can buy both. Microsoft could sell you both.
I know they could. Yeah, but still, Jez, it's not a handheld. Dead Captain.
What if man?
Dead Captain James.
What if the dock is 4 teraflops? The dock is 4 teraflops, and then the screen lifts out, and then it's like xCloud device. What if, man?
Dead Captain James says, all I know is Series X is stronger than my $1,300, but only in GPU power though. It's more powerful than his PC. He's excited for this thing. I'm excited for this thing. Look,
it crushes my £2,000 laptop.
The thing with the specs is they're great, but the reason I'm so excited for Series X is because I feel like Microsoft finally learned all of their lessons, all of the things that they did wrong with the Xbox One, right? Xbox One was designed for Kinect. It was designed to be all this entertainment machine all in one. It was like gaming was almost a secondary concern with the Xbox One. But that's definitely not the issue here with Series X. So yeah, you can be like, well, it's 12 teraflops, and it's got 3.8 gigahertz in the CPU, and it's got, 560 gigabyte memory bandwidth, and all this stuff. Like, to me, none of that really even means anything. And it doesn't even mean anything that, like, this, the PlayStation 5 is 10 or whatever it is. Like, finally, Microsoft built a gaming machine. A gaming machine, like, that's what it's going to do. It's going to play games the best it could possibly, play games at a cost, $500, which I think it is. So it's like, all right. And they really did a 180 on the messaging. You talk about how poor the messaging was all the way back in 2013 and everything they were doing. Like, and now it's like, all right, we revealed it early in December. All right, we're going to talk about it some more. Here's some more information. Phil's talking about transparency. Oh, here's Digital Foundry and Austin Evans putting the thing together, seeing the parts, detailing everything. And it's just like, all right, they learned their lesson. They know exactly what they need to do and how to present this. And it's just like, where was this Microsoft 7 years ago? I mean, granted,
I was thinking like earlier. It's funny they chose the year of the apocalypse to finally nail everything. It's typical. They start nailing everything, and then the apocalypse happens. But I agree with you. It feels like vindication. Like, even though the systems are very similar, and both consoles are they're gonna crush their games they play, and both, whether you're in the Sony camp or the Xbox camp, you're gonna be experiencing games like just like a high-end PC on a small system that you can put next to your TV or underneath your TV. It's just gonna be awesome. Like, ray tracing at cost. Like, ray tracing is so exciting. Like, I've tried running games on my RTX 2060 with ray tracing, and it looks amazing, but it's like, oh, by the way, now I've got 15 frames per second, And to see Gears 5 with 4K 60 with ray tracing on top, that's like incredible stuff. And I don't want to build a massive gaming rig to get those experiences. I like PC gaming. I do probably most of my gaming on PC, but it's like strategy games and World of Warcraft, which isn't very intensive and stuff like that. Like, for those like sort of sit at your couch TV sort of experiences, I just prefer to have a console.
Yeah, and I mean, I prefer the console too. And Eagles fan in Super Chat says Xbox chose their words carefully, R2 and locked. And yeah, so like, why I'm super excited about Series X, Kratospi says in the chat, yeah, building a powerful system like they did with Xbox One, Xbox One X alone isn't enough to be more successful. They have to change the perception in regards to Xbox. And I agree. Like, this won't mean anything if the games they put out are mediocre. I've been saying that forever. The games need to be great, regardless if they're AA games like Ori or the AAA space like Halo, Gears, Fable, Perfect Dark, or what have you. The games Microsoft has to put out have to be of quality, right? It can't just be like, oh, another Game Pass game and it's just more fodder. Like, I think that goes without saying. So it's like, I say it all the time. It's like, yeah, of course, the games matter. And I know, like, it's just, for me, it's like, yeah, the games are important. They have to be quality. They have to change that. And I think you start changing the perception now. You get all the hardware stuff out of the way, so then you can talk about the games, like what we're doing. So it's like, the hardware talk is done. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing more you can really talk about. And now it's all about the games. Like, what is Playground Games working on? Like, what is Halo Infinite? How does that look? What is the strategy with that game? Like, all this stuff. So it's like, I don't like being negative when I, like, too much, because I love gaming. So yeah, while I didn't really particularly like the PlayStation 5 briefing today with Cerny, even though I knew going in it wasn't going to be for me, I'm still just as excited about the PlayStation 5 as anybody else. I mean, whatever. The tech talk was, and it's not going to be my primary console anyways. I'm only going to be getting it for Sony's amazing exclusives. It's like, yeah, the games are incredibly important. Nobody ever said they weren't. But like, I think Microsoft is going to nail the games. Will they nail all the games? No, of course not, because nobody nails every game they put out. But I think they're going to do a really good job. You know, like that's all I can hope for, right, Jez?
I mean, one of the other games I was playing this week was State of Decay 2 Juggernaut Edition, which is like remastered graphics, new features, and a new map. And like the fact that they put an emphasis on remastered graphics really made me curious, like how much has this game improved? Because I haven't really played it for about a year, and I know they've put in like loads of updates and stuff like that. But like going back to State of Decay 2 in 2020 really puts like a nail in the fact that it's janky, buggy, like bugs that I had when I reviewed the game back in 2018. Did it come out? 2018? The bugs are still there, like zombies falling from the sky, cars bugging out and teleporting across the map, all these sort of weird bugs which stop State of Decay becoming like a top shelf game. All of that stuff needs to go next gen. Like if Microsoft wants to have a sort of I don't know, an identity of making quality games, all of these like janky sort of unambitious games need to go away. You know, we need everything sort of like on the level of quality of Ori, and like they don't have to be huge in scope. Like Bleeding Edge, for example. Bleeding Edge doesn't have a campaign, it doesn't have like a huge scope of a game, but it feels great to play and it's super polished. I need those games to be polished, you know. I don't want to have janky games. I don't want to have Crackdown 3 with all its bugs. I don't want to have State of Decay 2 being super buggy and stuff like that. You know, Microsoft needs to bring the games. They need to bring the fire, because at the end of the day, you can have all the specs in the world, and I have so much respect for what the engineers do to make those consoles. But a game console is useless without the games, and we can't have like this sort of a console that relies on third parties to do all the heavy lifting, especially in a world where Sony has The Last of Us 2 and, you know, Naughty Dog in general and all those others, you know, God of War and stuff like that.
They're going to have all the third party games too.
And they're going to have all the third party games too. And as well, it's sort of like Sony's going to be available potentially in more markets as well than Xbox One as well. So a lot of devs are probably going to be building for PlayStation 5 first. So that overhead that the Xbox Series X has is probably going to have to be showcased by first parties a lot of the time too. So, you know, I really want to see Microsoft step it up next gen. Like, Halo 5. I didn't like Halo 5 that much. I thought it was like limited in scope and the story was dull and stuff like that. Halo Infinite really needs to bring it for me, I think. Like, I felt like people had... I'm not a huge Halo fan, but people had a pretty mixed response to Halo 5.
I mean, Halo 5, I think the consensus is single player, not very good. Multiplayer was fire, though. Like, I love the multiplayer of Halo 5. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, everything's got it. Like, yeah, they're not gonna... Like, I'm just saying, for me, seeing the difference with the Xbox One and the marketing and the messaging then, and that the Xbox One was this like system that was supposed to be designed to do everything but couldn't do one thing good, and like seeing the reversal where it's like, here's Series X and this thing does one thing and it does one thing really good and it's designed to play games. As someone who plays a ton of games, it's like, yeah, baby, like that is what I want. And it's like, yeah, what's next? The games, please. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Sea of Thieves or State of Decay 2 or like any of that stuff. So it's like, yeah, I mean, Gears 5 was, I really like the campaign. I love Ori 2. More of that. I want more of that. You know, Outer Worlds, like, please, like, just start doing that. And I don't think, look, I've been saying it for a while. I don't think, even with Xbox Series X being more powerful, right? I still don't think, you know, I still don't think they're going to outsell the PS5 and console sales. I mean, who knows what happens with the virus, because that can really change everything. But, like, I still think Sony's just a bigger brand, but, like, I think Xbox is on the path to making people think about them twice. Like people just disregarded Xbox this generation. Like they didn't give it a second look. But I think that's going to change. But we got a question from LM and Appeal in chat. It says some people are complaining about SSD storage for next gen games on Series X. Well, PS5 will be the same. It's weird that they went with like 825 like gigabytes on the PS5.
It's not weird because they have a specific price point in mind for that system, and clearly shaving some gigabytes off the SSD was all about hitting a specific price point. Like you don't go below 1 terabyte unless you're cost saving, right?
Yeah.
And that SSD is insanely fast, like ridiculously fast. So they're probably not cheap. Like, well, obviously they're not cheap.
No. Yeah.
So,
but one of the big takeaways from all this Xbox stuff was the one thing I did a video on Monday, because like the tech stuff isn't me. Like I don't know much about it. I leave that stuff to like Dealer Gaming, Cold Eastwood. Like Dealer knows that stuff like inside and out. So like what caught my attention was the quick resume and the like loading, like sitting there and watching side by side. Here's State of Decay 2 and here's the game loading Xbox Series X, Xbox One X, and seeing how much faster it loaded with the Xbox Series X was like, okay, that's really good. Because now I can get a visual representation of what you've been talking about, because they've been talking about this stuff in so many articles that it's just kind of like, okay, that's great, it's going to be fast, but I want to see how fast. So it was really nice to see, okay, you're talking like significantly faster, and that's not even a game optimized for Series X. I wonder what it's going to be like for games built for the system that utilizes the SSD like that. But what really kind of caught my eye was the quick resume. The ability to like, I don't know, just quickly go back and forth between 5 different games, like load them within like 5 seconds. It's like you don't need, like, you could load up a game and then like say like Red Dead takes all this time to load, but it won't on Series X. But then like, okay, I'm done playing Red Dead, I'm gonna play something else, hop to a different game, hop back to Red Dead and be back playing where you were 5 seconds later. I thought those were 2 really killer demos that they put out there to showcase this is what the SSD is going to do for the games. This is what all the extra RAM is going to do for you. Like being able to play all that stuff really quickly. And that's what I kind of thought was missing a little bit from the PlayStation 5 talk today with Cerny. Well, I thought it would have like a more visual representation of like the SSD that Cerny was talking about could have benefited that. But what did you think about the quick resume and all that stuff?
Well, first of all, I want to say like there's a lot of fanboy nonsense going on right now, and like people are up in my mentions and presumably your mentions, like being all sensitive about the consoles and stuff like that. Like there isn't a doubt in my mind that these systems, both of them, are going to be insanely powerful, and the edge that Xbox has in specs, I honestly don't think it'll make such a huge difference. Personally, I mean, wait and see and stuff like that. But I've spoken to devs who say like the systems are virtually the same for all intents and purposes from a third-party developer perspective, and that's fine. However, one thing that I do think Sony really screwed up was the way they presented this whole event, because as I said earlier, a lot of my earlier leaks from a couple of years ago, they came from GDC sessions, and GDC sessions are typically closed doors experiences designed for developers, and Sony's session was developer focused, developer oriented, which was like great if you're a developer, but not so great if you're a consumer, And I think Microsoft sort of did a better job of bridging the gap and being like, this is what you get if you're an end user and you don't care about like shaders and all this other stuff. And whereas Sony sort of like, they just put their developer show out there and live streamed it to the public, and sort of missed the mark. Like I was watching like the chat, and there was just like thousands of people saying boring. And if you're a developer, it's not boring. It's amazing. But the problem is people weren't watching it from a developer's perspective. They were watching it from a consumer's perspective. And the fact that there hasn't been much information about the PlayStation 5 right now really put a spotlight on that particular event. So, like, I think that was a miss. They should have done what they did in 2013 and highlight, like, so the PS4 reveal and marketing was flawless in 2013. Like, the whole, like, this is how you share a game on PlayStation 4.
Well,
it's legendary.
Well, that wasn't until E3. But I think part of the reason with the PlayStation 4 reveal in 2013 was they actually show some trailers for some games. So you did have some of the tech stuff, but then they actually talked a little bit about PlayStation Network and the improvements, and they showed some games. And that's why it worked. And now you have, like with this, look, I think, I agree with you, like, as a first look at the PlayStation, not the way you want to go. Like, I
think like that what they should have done, they should have just basically done what Microsoft did, and like had the big event, but like been like, this is the high tech deep dive stuff. Like, you're gonna want this if you're a developer or you're someone who understands the tech, and then clip out some of the like the more interesting stuff, like what Microsoft did, and be like, this is the fast resume stuff. This is what the SSD means for your games. Maybe show a clip of a game to like remind people, that you know, we are technically the leader in AAA quality Hollywood budgeted games. You know, have some of that. But it's just the fact that there's been so little PlayStation 5 information, I guess, that people sort of really wanted this to be something more, and it kind of was just sort of a developer thing.
Well, so the Gunstar says it felt like they aren't as ready as Xbox. And Ravenflow says, seeing the events today, Microsoft handled the first round better than Sony. The Xbox Series X is looking good. Can't wait for Lockhart. See, I almost feel like with how Cerny's thing was presented today, like, that would have been something we wouldn't have seen. Like, it would have been behind closed doors at GDC if everything took place. So we never would have saw this. It would have just been for the developers there. But because, for whatever reason, they didn't do an event beforehand to actually talk about the PlayStation and show some games, this had to be done because it's GDC and all the numbers and all the specs are about to, like, be released anyway. So Xbox is like, here's our thing with Austin Aries and Digital Foundry. Sony's like, here's Mark Cerny. Obviously, Digital Foundry also got to saw the PlayStation because they had an article up. So, like, when people are so thirsty for PlayStation news, and they are, because people are dying to hear about the next generation PlayStation, and you tweet out like, yo, here's the video, and here's basically how the PlayStation 5 is going to usher in the next, you know, era of gaming and how it improves, and it's like, you get people excited for it because they don't know anything about it, and it's like, yeah, they did say Mark Cerny was going to give a deep dive on stuff, so I feel like most people should have known that it would have been exactly what it was. I mean, I knew going in, it was like, this is going to be Cerny talking. But then some people were like, no, there's got to be games there. There's got to be stuff. It's like, this isn't for you. This isn't for me and Jez. This isn't for, like, anybody even, like, you know, outside of a few people who really, really deeply care about tech, anybody in the chat. Like, this was for game developers. You know, you're sitting there and it's like Cerny's describing what an SSD is. You know, and it's like, and the audio stuff, and it's just like, as like a first look at the PlayStation, especially in comparison to how just Xbox did it 2 days ago, it really came off bad. But then you think, it's like, man, the people responsible for the great marketing and the great strategy around the PlayStation 4, you know, Andrew House, Jack Trenton, Adam Boyes, and John Drake, and all those guys, Gio Corsi, like, the people that you, like, know from, like, that period of time where they were just killing it. Like, they were just on Xbox's throat. Xbox talks about DRM. PlayStation's like, this is how you share games, right? And, oh, Xbox is $499. We're $399. Like, you remember that epic moment. Like, they were killing it every chance they could. 1080p makes you a better gamer, you know, because Xbox was doing 720p on, you know, the Xbox One. Like, that whole team, they're all gone. It's Jim Ryan in charge now. It's his show. And like they had to basically combine all the Sony of Europe and Sony America, Sony Japan, and it clearly seems like his vision of how you impart information to people is completely different than the previous admin. So I don't really know. Like, so it's like, yeah, the thing was boring. What else? What it was like it whatever. It's like I still think this PS5 is going to be a great console, and I think the games for it are going to be amazing. I'm just kind of looking at it like, okay, so the GitHub leak ended up being real. Surprise, surprise. They just kind of overclocked the GPU. So it's like a 10.28 teraflop GPU, same thing, 3.5 gigahertz CPU, 16 gigs of GDR6 RAM, blah, 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 blah. The big thing that the PlayStation 5, though, has over the Series X is the SSD. Like, it is significantly faster. So they're talking here that in the I/O throughput on the PlayStation 5, it's 5.5 gigabytes raw, where on the Xbox Series X, it's 2.4. So that's over 2 times faster for Series X. And, like when you watch all the tweets about it and people talking about it, it definitely seemed like that was the new focus. Like, it's an SSD war now. Like, people were comparing both of those and, like, how the SSD is going to be a game changer. I mean, I don't know. Like, you thought the PlayStation 5 was going to be closer in specs to the Xbox One Series X, right? So
yeah, I honestly, I planted my flag on 11 teraflops. I think, in the end, I thought it'd be like slightly less. I thought like they'd match them on everything except the GPU, and I obviously we knew about the SSD, but yeah, like for me, what's confusing is from someone who's not very technical, like what implications the SSD is going to have for game development. Like, obviously, we know about things like asset streaming and then offloading operations that are typically reserved for CPUs and GPUs to the SSD, because the SSD is so fast that it can actually do some of that stuff. Like, Microsoft already talked about like direct storage and this Xbox Velocity architecture, which can offload CPU operations to the SSD. I don't know how that stuff works. Personally, but I do remember back in 2013 there was a lot of confusion about the Xbox One's SRAM, the ESRAM, and developers saying like we don't want to use it and stuff like that. Like, developers have to actually use these APIs to leverage the advantages that come with it. So like, as someone who's got very sort of basic understanding of tech, faster SSD means faster loading speeds. The SSD in the Xbox Series X is also insanely fast. Like, it's way faster than the SSD in my laptop, and it's gonna, we saw the video. A State of Decay load goes down from a minute to like mere seconds, and like if from a loading perspective, it's like, oh, so State of Decay would load on a PlayStation 5 in 3 seconds instead of 7 or something. Like, that doesn't seem like a big deal. Where it becomes a big deal is how they use that SSD from a development perspective, and like how they leverage APIs to, offload operations to the SSD and stuff like that. If that's even possible, I don't know. It's like, we need more information, I guess. And I think GDC hasn't finished yet. Microsoft has another GDC presentation tomorrow, which they're gonna... Microsoft's version of Sony's event today is happening tomorrow. So like all the stuff that Sony talked about today, the deep dive with the devs, Microsoft is doing that for the X and X Cloud tomorrow.
I thought that was today.
Is it today? Is it Thursday today?
Today's Wednesday, but I thought the X Cloud, like the Xbox Series X and X Cloud, the next chapter of gaming talk, I thought that was today at like a couple hours ago.
Oh, okay. So I got my embargoes mixed up. There's going to be some more information about what the Xbox Series X can do tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. But again, it's all high-level developer stuff. I don't really get it. But there's more pieces to this puzzle than the spec table, is what I'm saying, basically, in a roundabout sort of way. And the proof for us as end users, as gamers who aren't super technical, and I know there are people who watch the show who are super technical. A shout out to you guys, because oftentimes you'll jump in my DMs and explain things to me. But for a regular gamer like me and you, the proof's going to be in the pudding, right? It's going to be the games. And we're not going to see the games maybe towards closer to when E3 is going to be sort of happening, right?
Yeah. Well, I got to give a quick shout out to like almost 1,400 people watching. Like I think we hit 1,366 Jazz, which is obviously the highest we've ever had for the show. So I told you when you were like, I don't know if I could do it today. I'm like, people want to hear it. So we appreciate everyone tuning in for the show, guys. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like, subscribe button, and share this bad boy out on Twitter. Now, we got a question from Aquaman. He says, Jazz, why do you think third-party developers will make games on PlayStation before Xbox?
I was just sort of like, I don't know if they will or they won't. It was just sort of like a possibility sort of thing. Like, the fact that the PlayStation has such a huge install base is the reason we get games like Persona arbitrarily missing Xbox. Install base has advantages from like a market perspective and a developer perspective. Like, if they see, like, if the PlayStation 5 has unique APIs and stuff, they'll be like, well, we'll develop it for the PlayStation 5, which has the bigger install base first, and then maybe see how we can leverage that to the Xbox Series X or something. I don't know. Again, I'm not a game developer, but it's like, it was just sort of speculation. That wasn't me saying they would definitely make the games for PS5 first. It was just speculation.
Right. Just speculation. And Paul in Super Chat says, Xbox Velocity architecture has a 6 gigabyte transfer. Well, I mean, I basically, like, I think I said this in the Discord I was in. It's like begun the SSD wars have, because that's what people are gonna like. Oh well, I'm all for like less loading. Like, so I'm all like, sign me up. Like, some of these games really have ridiculous like loadings. Screens, like Red Dead has a long one, and like Metro Exodus has one. So like, the less I have to wait to play, the better. Like, so, but I don't think anybody really should be disappointed in what like the PlayStation 5 is. Like, yeah, the GitHub leak was real. Shout out to everybody on Reset Era that said it was fake. Don't you guys look like fools? But they always look like fools. And you know what? Like, you know what really kind of like gets people's expectation? Like, here you have some legit leak, and the people didn't want to believe it because insiders said this, and insiders said this every single freaking day on Twitter and on YouTube. Oh man, it's 11, or it's 12, it's 13, and Tommy Fisher says this over here, and this person says this over there, and hey, this person says there'll absolutely 100% be game demos at this thing. Really? I must have missed those game demos. You know that for sure? Like, man, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of these so-called PlayStation insiders, they got everything wrong. Everything. Like, none of them. Like, first off, the reveal that was supposed to happen in February, where is it? Did I miss it or something? Because I was told it was February 5th, and then February 12th, and then February 29th. Where was it? Where'd it go? And then it was, and then like the hardware is supposed to be 13.3 or all this other BS, and every single day, new rumor videos, all this stuff. And what did it end up being? Basically exactly what the GitHub leak said it was going to be, just with the higher clock. Like, man, did they really like? What do you think about that, Jazz? Insiders and how they kind of ruin it for people. Do you have any like?
I think the problem with old school forums, like these old school forums, are sort of like, they're not as popular as they used to be. Back when I was a kid, like, there were forums everywhere, and nowadays there's sort of like a small amount of like sort of really hardcore forums, and some people really like that, and that's great. But the problem is, I think like for a lot of people, they just look for any excuse to post anything, and when there's nothing to post about, they either make stuff up or they take the smallest rumor out of proportion and have all this speculation and stuff like that. And I think like it sometimes can create like this sort of toxic environment where like people put investment in fake news and stuff. I mean, you can apply that to literally anything these days. Like every time there's any sort of shred of news, there are conspiracy theories. There are people who are basically bored and trying to look for meaning in things that don't have as much meaning, I guess. And I don't know. We can get all philosophical about it, and I don't want to. But at the end of the day, it's doesn't matter because you've got two types of gamer. You've got the gamer who gets all sensitive and treats this whole thing like a personal, like it's validation of their life for some of these people. And you get people who just, I'm a gamer and I like gaming. Like, I'm not going to get a PlayStation 5 at launch. I wouldn't have got a PlayStation 5 at launch even if it was more powerful because A, it's my job to talk about Xbox. It's literally my job. And B, I don't have time. And C, I'm sort of the kind of guy who'll only play it for the exclusives. So I'm like, I'll just play The Last of Us 2 on PlayStation 4 Pro that I have. And then maybe I get a PlayStation 5 later. But that doesn't mean I hate PlayStation, you know? I just sort of like ended up in the Xbox ecosystem for whatever reason. I have been on the Xbox ecosystem for God knows how long. I also game on Nintendo Switch. I also game on my PC. I play mostly on my PC at the moment. You know.
Well, it was weird because like when I made a couple funny tweets today about, hey, I'm falling asleep while watching this or whatever. And man, a couple of PlayStation guys really, really took that to heart and were like, so much for Rand being neutral. And I'm like, when have I ever said I was neutral? I think everybody listening to the show and who's been following me like knows I got a freaking million gamer score, okay? Like I ain't neutral. Like I prefer Xbox a lot. I want Xbox to be better, and I think they are doing that. But I'm not also someone who just shits on PlayStation just because. I really enjoy PlayStation's games, and I thought for the most part, like their games were way better than Xbox's this gen. So people are like, "Oh, Rand, you really showing your true colors." It's like I'm not neutral. I like Xbox. That's my preferred platform. I'll be playing 99% of my games next gen on the Xbox, but I'm getting a PlayStation day one because I'm going to be playing all those games too. The funny thing is I beat most of those PlayStation exclusives that these PlayStation guys talk about on Twitter that they don't even finish. Half of them don't even finish Death Stranding or any of that stuff, but they sure talked about it a lot. You know, like, and then like they make it sound like because one guy was like that the PlayStation 5 will do all these things better than the Xbox ever could or whatever, and I'm like, buddy, I'll be getting the PlayStation 5. It's a toy you buy at a store for a price. It's not an exclusive club. You know what I mean? It's not an exclusive club where you get like a jacket and be like, yeah, I'm part of the PS5 club, and you need to have like a secret handshake to get into some stupid hideout. Like anybody who wants to pay for it can get it. And some
it's so tribal.
It's so tribal. And they don't understand that. It's like, yeah, I'll have it too, buddy, and I'll play the games that you're talking about, and I'll beat them before you too. You know what I mean? Like, it's so ridiculous.
I have so much respect for PlayStation. Like, PlayStation is literally the reason gaming became my passion. Like, I had like a Super Nintendo, I had like a Mega Drive and stuff like that, but they were toys to me. And then I had a PlayStation 1, and it was like, oh my god, Final Fantasy VII, Resident Evil, like all these games just like defined my childhood to the point that I knew I wanted to be in games in some capacity, whether it was a hobby, whether it was like, you know, writing about it from, you know, hobby perspective, whether it was like drawing or writing music about games, which is something I used to do before. Like, you know, I used to want to make a band that made songs about video games, you know, in my early 20s. And one of my songs was played at BlizzCon, which was like, oh my god, I'm actually going to become a rock star, you know. But I ended up being a blogger instead. So that's fair enough. But I just knew I wanted to be in games, and that's because of PlayStation. Like I have so much respect for that, you know. I don't get why people treat this in such a tribalistic sort of manner. It really sort of detracts from the hobby when people do that. But I think we've talked about the fanboys too much, man. We give too much airtime to these fanboys.
Yeah, no, I know. I have a lot of them muted, but some of them still slip through the crack, and it's like, enjoy your PlayStation 5. It's gonna be a great console with great games. I don't understand like why.
And look at the Switch, man. Look at the Switch. It's like 1 teraflop, and like I'm like all about Animal Crossing
right?
Friday.
Games,
Animal Crossing's coming out. I ain't gonna be caring about no 12 teraflop system. I'm gonna be playing Animal Crossing, man. I'm gonna be tending my crops. You know, I'm gonna be fishing in Animal Crossing world.
God, you really are gonna play that game, aren't you?
Dude, I'm gonna have 300 hours in Animal Crossing, and I'm gonna post about it on Twitter. I'm gonna talk about it on this podcast, and you're gonna love it. And then when it comes to like the end of the year, we're gonna do Rand charity.
No, we are we are not.
Oh yeah, man.
No, we are
Rand
not. I am not playing Animal Crossing. I will chuck my Switch into a river. I'll make sure that I don't have a Switch because I ain't doing that. And then if you make me try to play World of Warcraft, I'll chuck my PC in a river.
Oh man,
we're not doing
World of Warcraft expansion this year too.
We got a question. We got a question, Jez. Let's answer. We got one from Mr. Echo in Super Chat. He says, "I find it odd that the PlayStation 5 ray tracing wasn't really talked about yet. Xbox Digital Foundry said the hardware-based ray tracing would take substantial power. Seemed glossed over." Yeah. What'd you think of the ray tracing demo they showed for Minecraft, Jez? For Xbox. The Minecraft ray tracing demo.
Well, put it this way, Rand. Like, out of all the Xbox Series X coverage and all the PlayStation 5 coverage this week, guess what got the most traffic on Windows Central?
Minecraft.
The 3-second clip of Minecraft with ray tracing on the Xbox Series X. And then I had to reach out to Microsoft for a comment. Does this mean the Xbox Series X is getting ray tracing Minecraft? And then Microsoft was like, "Oh, that was just a demo. It's not indicative of any product, blah, 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 blah." But, like, people are so thirsty for ray tracing Minecraft, man. Because, like, to get it, you have to play the Java edition on PC, which isn't compatible with, like, the Bedrock versions, which means you don't get cross-play and stuff like that. So, like, I don't know why Microsoft isn't just announcing this stuff. Maybe it's, like, complicated to get, like, proper ray tracing on the Bedrock engine or something, but I don't know. I'm hyped for ray tracing Minecraft. You know what would be amazing though?
What would be amazing?
Ray tracing Animal Crossing, man, or ray tracing Pokemon. Can you imagine Charizard using flamethrower with ray tracing? That'd be sick.
I don't want to think of it. We got another one from Chaos Might. He says, "I used to play PlayStation games too, but now I prefer Xbox because of the controllers and the ecosystem. I mean, I like the ecosystem too. I own a bunch of games. Game Pass is great, although I don't use it that much. I do like the controller more. And what do you think of the new controller, Jazz? I mean, it looks, they added the share button, which is obviously huge. Obviously they needed to do it after Nintendo added one on theirs, for Christ's sake, right? So the share button was there. I use the Elite Series 2 right now, and I love that controller. So I'm just like, when I get the Series X, I'm like, man, am I gonna have to use that controller?
No, but Rand.
Yes.
You can bind the paddles to be a share button on the Elite controller. I'm gonna write a guide about this. But the API for the share feature on the new controller is already in the Xbox operating system, and you can bind the paddles on the Elite controller to the share button. So you can make your own share button on the Elite controller. So for those who've got an Elite controller and think, "Oh God, I want the share button," you can get that functionality. So don't worry too much about that.
Yeah.
But
shout out to
the
James.
New controller looks great.
Shout out to James for the new controller though, and the share button, the new nice like slimmer look, the little textures on the triggers. The bumpers. I mean, it looks great, but I ain't gonna use it, man, because the rechargeable battery on the Elite 2 controller is a game changer. The dock, and you just slip it into the dock when you're done, and then it's fully charged for tomorrow. Like, I ain't going back to double A's. No chance. Like, Eneloop batteries are great and they last a long time, but nah. When you've experienced the greatness of the Elite controller, the Elite controller's rechargeable battery, there ain't no going back. You know what? I agree with you because I was using Envelopes too, and I would take them out or put the new ones in and charge them, and then they would they wouldn't last very long. Eventually they would wear out because I do play a lot. But like the battery on the Series X lasts a long time, and I'm just like, wow, this battery's got some juice, and it definitely feels like I don't know, like you're getting like 30 hours out of it at least before you do have to charge it. And then it charges pretty fast. So I'm really happy with my with my Elite Series 2 controller. Like it definitely was well worth the money. And P. Diddy, he says, Jez, you hearing anything about Techland? ? They did have this little slip up where they talked about 16 game studios. People are wondering if he was like,
So sometimes I like to screw with Rand.
Yeah, you should.
Last night,
tell him what you did. Tell him what you did. I almost freaked out, guys, because Jez DMs me. Jez goes, Rand, I have Xbox information under embargo, and I'm like, what? Do tell. So tell the people what you told me.
Well, I was like, Rand, I got Xbox information coming. Koei Tecmo and Techland and Asobo joining Xbox. And Rand...
No, and you said Techland too.
Yeah, Techland, Asobo, and Koei Tecmo. Now, I wrote Koei Tecmo Holdings out long because I thought if I write the whole thing, it'll make it more believable and sound more official. And you believed it.
I did. He's like, Koei Tecmo Holdings, Asobo, and Techland are being acquired by Microsoft, and I sat there. I'm like, you're fucking kidding me! Like, no way! I'm like, what? That is huge! And they're just like, yeah, I'm kidding you. I'm like, this is what Jez does to me. Makes me play stupid Pokemon, and then like teases me about like, oh, Xbox has got new studios.
No.
So have you heard anything about Techland at all? Or
I never hear anything about like studio acquisitions unless I do get it under embargo. And if I do get it under embargo, I ain't telling Rand about it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But it's an interesting one because Techland's one of the few like independent studios left, and they're making the kind of games that Xbox sort of needs. And man. But I did speak to people at Microsoft about that 16 studios thing, and they just said someone misspoke. I mean, it could be like a case of misspeaking or misassigning a studio, maybe, because like Microsoft has a bunch of smaller studios that work on stuff that aren't necessarily counted in the total number of Xbox game studios on the website. Like, do they count the studio that makes like Solitaire and stuff? Microsoft has a studio dedicated to Solitaire.
Do you know the name of that studio?
It's just I think it's just Microsoft Casual Games or something. I don't know if they count. They should count towards the total number because they do some great work. And if I told you the concurrent user base of Solitaire, it would blow your mind. It's like Solitaire is a big deal for Xbox, and they should be counted in the total number. But like, I don't know. I think someone misspoke.
Yeah, probably. Hey, do you see the gameplay that's on right now, Jez? It's the Final Fantasy VII remake. So I played it again to capture footage. God, that game.
Oh, is that what you're showing?
Yeah, and then they, I don't know if you saw, but they put out that press release today where they're like, "Yeah, the game's still coming April 10th, but you may not get a physical disc, so go digital."
Yeah, I saw that. Like, there's going to be stock shortages potentially and stuff like that. Are people going to be like stocking up on Final Fantasy discs like they're doing with toilet paper?
Because due to the virus, I don't think they'll be able to print them. The people working to print them probably won't be working to print the discs. That's why you never know. Like, guys, like Last of Us Part 2, Ghosts, Halo Infinite. Like, if everybody's got to work from home, some studios just aren't equipped and don't have the pipeline to work from home.
Yeah, I mean, some studios are already built from the ground up to work remotely, but a lot of studios ain't. 343 Industries ain't a remote working studio. And Microsoft has like really great tech for pivoting to remote work and stuff like that, like Microsoft Teams and SharePoint and all those sorts of and Azure, all those sorts of systems Microsoft can leverage to help people work from home. They don't make up for losing the culture and losing like the ability to just get up and go to someone's desk and ask them for something. So like I would not be surprised if we see like a deluge of delayed games in the coming months. Like they've already said Minecraft Dungeons might slip. CD Projekt Red have said that Cyberpunk isn't going to slip, but like seriously, I do think we're going to start seeing games slip. So like we've got pretty big backlogs to get through. And this could be the excuse. I guess.
We do. We also got a couple questions. We got Ravenflow. Have you guys heard rumors of Sony buying the Konami IP? We'll talk about that in a second. And Game Genie Prime says, Jez, can you talk random Animal Crossing? Do it. No, that's not happening. I'm not playing Animal Crossing. What? I don't care.
Have you ever played Stardew Valley?
No, I those games aren't for me. Like I know I have a couple buddies who love that. I'm not playing those games. I'm not playing Stardew Valley. I'm not playing Animal Crossing. I'm not
Barbie horse riding, man.
I did that for achievements. I was a different person then.
Why don't you play Stardew Valley for achievements?
Because I don't really care about achievements anymore.
Oh man,
not enough to the point where I'm gonna play a game I really don't want to play. But
what if we like? I don't know, man. We might have to do a charity Animal Crossing at some point.
No. Moving on. Jez, we talked about this in DMs, and I did actually ask somebody who might know, and they said they'd look into it or whatever. Sony potentially buying the Silent Hill, Metal Gear, and Castlevania IPs from Konami and making them like exclusive PlayStation 5 games, essentially, like Kojima back working on that stuff. Like, I think would be huge if true, because I want Silent Hill to come back, and I am a big fan of Castlevania, so making it more like Dark Souls or whatever would be really cool. And did I say Metal Gear? Because I think I mentioned Metal Gear. Like, yeah, Metal Gear being done by Kojima again would be ridiculous.
But, like, on the one hand, this sounds like some fanboy wishful thinking. On the other hand, I hope it's true. As a fanboy, I want Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania, and Silent Hills out of Konami's hands, first of all. And to get Metal Gear Solid back with Kojima would be a dream come true. I would run out if either Silent Hill or like Metal Gear Solid went to Kojima Productions. I would run out and buy a PlayStation 5 day one. Like that's probably like. Well, obviously, it wouldn't be announced day one, but I would buy a PlayStation 5 specifically for those games. Those are games I will buy it for. It's but it sounds like wishful thinking, man. Like, Konami isn't going to sell those IP because they can make those crappy mobile gacha games.
They can license the IP. I can easily see there being a Silent Hill PS5 exclusive game. I could easily see that happening.
Yeah, maybe.
And I could easily see there
sell,
being.
Though. I can't see them selling.
Not sell. I mean, you remember 2 years ago? The no was like Microsoft bought Silent Hills for like $4 billion or whatever it was, and it was just like this most ridiculous thing ever.
Rumor. That's the most hilarious rumor. Microsoft buys a single player horror IP for $4 billion
or whatever it was. Yeah. But speaking of money, Jez, now that we have the specs. We can look at it. We know what the Series X looks like. Obviously, we don't know what the PS5 looks like yet. I'm assuming probably a beefy because it's the clocks are gonna need it, and you can't be a small console, like really small. What do you think the prices on these things are gonna be? Because, like, yeah, the Series X seems to have the power advantage. The CPU seems to be a little bit better. Like, you would think, well, Series X probably, and I'm going to say Series X is $500. You would think, like, looking at, like, the spec sheet, like, well, the PlayStation 5 is probably going to be $399. But then you were saying, when we were talking about this earlier, like, yo, that SSD, the expensive honestly, cooling tech, like...
I honestly think, like, I mean, I have no information, so I don't know for sure. But I think there's a fair chance they could be price matched. I think so. Like, Sony, like the SSD that Sony's put in that thing is going to be a killer for price, and SSD tech ain't cheap. The fact that they've shipped it at zero point 0.8 terabytes or whatever it is indicative of wanting to save on price. I think they match on price, man. I can see the logic behind PlayStation 5 being cheaper, but that Bloomberg leak about it being Sony wanting to get the, you know, to get the costs lower than $450. A lot of people still think that, you know, hardware vendors don't want to make a profit on hardware and stuff. That isn't the case anymore, really. Like, they do want to make some profit on the hardware units sold, and you know, in order to do that, they're gonna have to like price it a little higher. If it does cost $450 to manufacture, I think like $500 seems reasonable for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. But you know, I have no information, and I think it's reasonable to expect the PlayStation 5 to be cheaper as well. But then you've got Lockhart, which is a wild card. You know, 4 teraflop mini next gen console, which targets 1080p or 1440p, and you know, ray tracing at 30 frames per second and stuff like that.
You know, I'm gonna say something here, okay, about Lockhart. I know a lot of people like are gonna look at Lockhart and be like, it's gonna hold back next gen because of its lower spec and everything, right? That might be Microsoft's freaking ace in the hole. You want to know why? Because, and we were talking about this earlier, Jazz, not only in the show, but also in, you know, behind the scenes. We mentioned earlier, like, world's going through some crazy times now. The virus is spreading. People got to practice social distancing, quarantine. We're about to hit a global recession. And I tell you what, during a global recession, if people aren't working, I tell you, new consoles that are priced at $500 aren't going to be very appealing. But you know what's going to be appealing? A $300 console that plays those same next-gen games.
You know, like, this reminds me of the situation with the Wii. Like, the one of the reasons the Wii sold so well, not only because it did have a unique form factor and a unique proposition, and they marketed it to new people very well. Like, they were like, oh, if you're an adult, get a Wii for Wii Fit. But the reason they got it was because it was so cheap, it almost became a no-brainer, you know. And it was also during the time of global recession. You know, we had like the credit crunch and all that sort of stuff. And I always thought, even back then, before I was a riot, that maybe that helped the price proposition, you know, for the Wii. So, who knows, man?
Yeah, I mean, look, I also, like, I feel kind of bad for the engineers of these consoles and, like, everybody who's been working on the marketing for Series X and the PlayStation 5, like, working tirelessly. Like, if you watch the Austin Evans video, or you watch the Digital Foundry stuff, Jason Ronald said that they've been working on the Series X since 2016, right? And like, to think, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to, like, kind of position it as. This is our strategy, all this stuff. And then to see this virus just come out of nowhere that, like, nobody could possibly predict. And then, because now you're talking, like, well, are the consoles going to be delayed? You know, and Microsoft's saying, like, no, holiday 2020. In fact, earlier today, there was some of their websites had changed to Thanksgiving 2020, right? Which then Major Nelson and had to come out and say, no, that was wrong. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean it's wrong? It's your website. Like, what are you talking about? Like, your website changed and said Thanksgiving 2020. And people saw it because it wasn't, it wasn't the US website, but it was like the India website. It was like the New Zealand website. It was like a few other, like, overseas websites. Like, it's your website. It was changed to Thanksgiving 2020. Like,
what if Microsoft's trying very inelegantly to make Sony think that it's coming in Thanksgiving when really it's going to launch earlier, like Brad Sams and some others have heard?
Yeah, like Brad Sams said he heard September. You know, like, which would be amazing. September.
I heard like late summer, which is basically September, right?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, random for everyone watching this, Resident Evil 3 demo just dropped, so make sure you go and get that after the show.
Yes, Resident
After
Evil
the show.
3. After the show. Don't get it now, or start downloading it now, but don't go play it. Watch the rest of it.
I'm downloading it now. Bye, Ren. Resident Evil.
So what was it? What was saying? Like, oh yeah, so like you have this, like, all this work, all this prep being put into both of these consoles, all these games being like, we're targeting new release, like the consoles, like best time for new IPs at the beginning of a console generation. You have all this stuff. And then out of nowhere, it's something you couldn't predict, something you couldn't plan for. Just like, nah, sorry, you wanted new consoles this year? Don't think so. Oh, you wanted games too? Nah, nobody can work from home, or nobody can go to the office and finish their games. Like, it just came in and just was like, screws everything up. And like, Microsoft's whole plan was like, all right, 2 consoles. All right, their Series X was going to be, because here's the thing. I think when Microsoft sat down to plan out next gen, right? And the Ravenflow, thanks for the super chat, he says, if Xbox drops the X at 500, I might break. When I think Xbox sat down to kind of war game next generation, and they had this 2 console idea, they're like, all right, we're gonna make sure that we don't lose the power talk, because it killed them at the beginning of this generation. Like, it absolutely murdered them. Yeah, alongside like the more expensive price and like the DRM stuff, all that stuff like really hurt. But like, what can Microsoft control? They can control the power. It's like the power killed them. Every single Digital Foundry video killed them. Everybody talking about how Xbox 720p or whatever. Like, we're gonna make sure we're not gonna lose the power narrative. This is what we're building, right? And I think they thought Sony was gonna build an 8 teraflop machine, and then Sony was gonna target 400. So it's like, all right, Xbox is gonna target 500. PlayStation 5 was going to target $400, right? I think that's what they thought. And it's like, you know what? But we need another console underneath that, right? So we need a cheaper console, because even though we'll be more powerful than the PlayStation, we're still $100 more expensive. And that doesn't bode so well. So you have this Lockhart that is going to be basically for 1080p, 1440p gamers, people that don't really need the best of the best and don't really have 4K televisions, all that stuff. It's like, okay, we're gonna come in that's $299, and it's like, okay, even still, like the PlayStation 5 at that price point, at that power level, is pretty good. $399, it worked. But then I think what happened was, I think the PlayStation 5, they went a little bit higher, and maybe because of what they're doing with the SSD and some other things, like they might be at the same price as Series X. They both would be 500, and the Lockhart might be $299, and then with the new living conditions we might be at the end of the year, that console might be appealing. Even if it does, I see you, OBJ, I see you in the chat, even if it does play Xbox One games, like, that could be a big factor. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to, like, win the generation for them, but I think, because money's going to be, the price point's always important to everybody. So especially if you're in an economy where like every dollar matters and you really want to play those games, like a $300 console is like, hey, you know what? I'll get this, and maybe if I want to upgrade later, I will. But
especially if it's a handheld.
Yeah, the back compat situation, Jez. What do you think of their kind of muddled messaging about the back compat on the PlayStation 5?
Well, this is one area that Microsoft should emphasize, because like, at least I think like in 2 or 3 years no one's going to be playing those sort of older games maybe, but like at least at the start people are going to want to feel like all their investment in their current gen console is going to go with them to the next gen console. And as someone in the Xbox ecosystem, I know that all of my Xbox One games and all the games that are onto Xbox 360 back compat and OG Xbox compatibility, all those are definitely confirmed to be carrying forward. Now, for Sony, that's not the case. It's only up to 100 games planned for launch. and they're having to go through and test each game and maybe run it through some kind of wizard or something to get it running on the PlayStation 4. Whereas Xbox Series X just runs the whole Xbox One operating system, and like it calls the Xbox Series X APIs when it needs them. Like that's all the whole smart delivery thing, right? So when we used to talk about how the Xbox One operating system was this complicated thing that maybe held it back, now we sort of seeing that maybe the way Microsoft made the architecture for the Xbox One was actually probably a good thing, because it now has enabled them to have this sort of full backwards compatibility.
Are you sure they said that? I mean, the way I read the thing and his talk is like they targeted the 100 most popular PlayStation 5 game or 4 games, and they're pretty sure that they'll have all those ready to go. But then they'll work on getting almost all of them to work eventually down the road, not necessarily like all of them, not like all 4,000 at launch, but at least the 100 most popular ones at launch. But then they'll add more as they go. Like, I don't know, it was just, yeah, sure, like I was listening to Cerny, but he was putting me to sleep, and I read the like article, but it wasn't really very clear. I don't know, like it. And I think Xbox should nail that home. Like they've talked about, like they've mentioned, yeah, it has 4 generations, and like, okay, the 360, the Xbox One games that are currently there, but like the Xbox One games, have they said all of them?
Yes.
I don't. So they said.
Oh well. Maybe they haven't come out and said it, but I know for a fact from my reliable information that it's going to be all of them. Pending licensing. Like, I don't know. Like, for example, we don't have the older Forza Motorsport game on Xbox Game Pass, and that's to do with music licensing. I don't know like the intricacies of some of those licensing deals, but the Xbox Series X has the whole Xbox One operating system on it. They don't need to change anything to get those games to run. You know, it's theoretically, the Xbox One could run every single Xbox 360 game. It's just the licensing that stopped it from happening. They had to go around to every single publisher one by one and ask them for those licensing deals, or do licensing deals, or what, you know. And then eventually it just became a case of, well, this is no longer sort of super necessary anymore. We need those teams getting licensing deals for xCloud instead, which is going to be like the future, you know. So I don't know, but at least in theory, you're going to get everything day one, and I think that's going to be the case. Even if they haven't said it right now, I firmly believe that's going to be the case.
Okay, I think they did say in their little press thing that it was like all current Xbox One games. So that kind of does mean, at least up to that point, like all of them. But hey, like, that's what you get when you figure out the software emulation, because that's what they're doing, right? Because they're basically doing hardware back compat on the PlayStation. So that's that's definitely. I see we have James Shields in chat. Yeah, we talked about your controller, James. We praised it.
We like the battery on the Elite controller.
Yes.
Thank you for the battery.
Yes.
It's a nice.
And, we're still over 1,100 people watching. We have like 480 likes on the show. Make sure you guys hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate that. And Jez will put this up on podcast services like Google Play and iTunes whenever he gets a chance, after I download it and send it to him. Man, crazy, man. Like, so what else do you want to talk about? Well, we got another question here. It says, we got one from Keyup901. Quick resume is great on Xbox Series X console. Been doing it on PC for a while. Alt tab.
Alt-tab? Okay. It's not the same. It's not the same. Like, I can't run four PC games simultaneously. I can't run 4 PC games simultaneously. Like, my PC would catch fire. So,
and Mr. Echo says they even did a Fusion Fresnel demo and it had HDR. So that's the other thing they talked about with the Series X, was They added HDR to Halo 5 when it was a game that never was supposed to have it.
Yeah, they're doing some kind of machine learning HDR or something.
Something like that. All these tech people know what they're talking about. You see Tim Dog right now on Twitter going crazy?
Yeah. Oh, Tim's having a field day right now.
Yeah, he's serving up receipts to pretty much everybody that wronged him.
Everyone that bought the 13 teraflop, 14 teraflop rumors.
Yeah,
he's serving receipts.
Yeah.
That guy's got receipts for days.
He sure does. He really, really does. And Kia responds to you, Jez, and says, "Sorry, your PC is weak, sir."
Yeah, I mean, you can buy me a new one if you want. But yeah, my PC is kind of weak. It's not great. I almost bought a Razer Core with RTX 2080 Super this week. Almost. But then I thought maybe I'm going to need that money for like bartering in the apocalypse in a few months. So maybe I should save it.
Yeah. What about toilet paper? Who'd have thought that toilet paper would have been like a huge currency as it is? It's crazy, dude.
In State of Decay 1 called that. There's a scene in State of Decay 1 where an NPC is talking about how he was shocked that it was toilet paper that everyone freaked out about. That's kind of weird, prophetic. But it is what it is.
It is what it is. What do you think about Call of Duty Warzone? Have you gotten a chance to play it?
Oh, I haven't touched it.
How big it is?
I hate Battle Royale, man. I hate Battle Royale, man.
You hate Battle Royale.
I don't like it.
I haven't played it either. I've been playing a lot of Ori. That has kind of been taking up my time, and I'm waiting to Doom Eternal on Friday. I cannot wait to play it. And I get a question from Saeed in chat. He says, "Hey Rand, sorry I'm a little late to the show. I wanted to know what you think is better, a faster console, the PS5, or more powerful console in the Xbox Series X? What do I think is better? I mean, you're asking a person that was going to get Xbox Series X regardless of what the specs were, and we were going to play everything on it regardless. I'm not the right person to ask that question. You'd have to ask somebody who's really deciding between the two. I was getting both anyways day one, so like it didn't matter to me if Series X was less powerful or if it was more powerful. It was just the one I was going to play on. I mean, I'm just happy that the Series X seems to be a competent console made for gaming. That Microsoft really focused on that aspect and is going to put out a kick-ass system for what I think is going to be $500. Even for $600, that's going to be a powerful system.
For me, it's all about like ray tracing. Like when I ran like the Minecraft with ray tracing on my PC, it was kind of like I can't believe how much of a difference physics-based lighting makes. It just makes everything look so much more vivid, so much more realistic, so much more dynamic. And like I put RTX mode on Metro Exodus on my PC as well. Like I said earlier, it dropped my frame rate down to 15 frames per second because my PC is not powerful enough for it. But it just looked so pretty. Like I want the ray tracing more than anything right now for next gen. Like I'm looking forward to like what Hellblade 2 is going to look like with that stuff. I'm looking forward to Minecraft having that on console, so I don't have to buy like a more powerful PC for it. I'm looking forward to all that sort of stuff. But like, I'm also. Did Sony talk about VR much today?
No, I don't think they mentioned VR at all. I mean,
see, that's weird because I had heard that Sony was going to put an emphasis on VR as a key differentiator. Maybe that's coming later, but I'm kind of like VR for Sony is one thing that I'm really interested in because I've talked about before how like I've got the cheapest VR headset, which is the HP Windows Mixed Reality headset, and like it's so cool playing Minecraft with VR, but it makes me sick, So even though like I don't invest a great deal in VR right now, I kind of like I'm watching it and I want to see where the tech goes and stuff like that. And if they can make it like wireless and like the Oculus Quest, and if they can make it like higher resolution, so it's more immersive and less like vomit inducing. Like my HP Windows Mixed Reality headset is awful. Like the lenses get steamed up, it's uncomfortable, and it's just not a fun experience. And it's just like, man, I kind of want this, but better. So I want to see what Sony does with VR as well.
And there's a big VR game coming out in what, 4 days? 5 days? The biggest VR game ever.
Is it that soon?
It's Half-Life Alyx is March 23rd, I thought.
HTC just announced that their new headset comes with Half-Life Alyx for free.
I was actually, God, I want to play Half-Life Alyx, but it's like VR though, and headsets aren't cheap. Like, it's just like, man, I can't justify.
For me, it's like
that.
it's not just the expense of buying like a HTC or one of the higher end VR headsets. It's also space, right? Like the good thing about the Windows Mixed Reality headset is that they do the tracking on the headset. So like it scans with Kinect style cameras for the tracking, but like some of these like HTC headsets require like beacons to be set up and requires like a large amount of play space, and I just don't have the room for that.
Yeah. Ooh. Anything else about
Resident Evil 3 is downloaded.
About Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5? You want to talk about, Chaz?
I think like I'm just excited for next gen at this point. I think that honestly the biggest loser today was Google Stadia, because when Google Stadia announced this platform, they were like, "Oh, we've got the most teraflops, guys. We got the most teraflops," and now it's like, "Oh, you can get like Google Stadia's power with a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox natively now." Like, there's literally the only thing Stadia had going for it is gone pretty much now, because Sony's going to do cloud streaming. And honestly, PlayStation Now works really well. I don't know if anyone's tried it, but I played God of War on my PC via PlayStation Now, and it was great. I was really impressed with it. xCloud obviously is like doing really well. Still in preview. Like, God knows when that's going to come out. I wonder if that's going to be delayed due to the virus that shall not be named. But it is what it is. But Stadia, like, what is even the point of Stadia now? It's like you get like less than PlayStation 5 performance, but you've also got to bottleneck it against your internet connection. It's a joke, man. It is a joke. Google Stadia is a joke. So, GG.
I mean, I still don't think you can properly judge Google Stadia just yet. I think you need to wait and see.
I always say, like, you can't count them out because Google has so much money, and like they can also link it to YouTube and stuff like that. But I don't think Google deserves to be in this industry, frankly. I don't think they deserve it. Like, they haven't earned it, So whatever.
Well, so I think that'll be the show, but of course we're going to take questions as we always do. So if you guys want to ask us something, make sure you put it in chat. We thank anybody that was here today. I want to just say again, be safe out there. I wish everybody, everybody like great health. I hope everybody's family remains safe. I don't want to see. I don't know this. It's getting crazy out there, man. So everybody be safe. Let us know if you have any questions, and if you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you follow me and Jez on Twitter. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Sean LeBrie's going to be tweaking the overlay so it looks nice and pretty. Hope you guys did enjoy that and the gameplay and all that stuff. So, yeah.
You should. I've finished downloading Resident Evil now. You have to get it from the. You can get it from the New Zealand or Australian Xbox store. You can literally just use a link and then click install from a browser by logging into your Microsoft account. Rand, you should put gameplay of this up on the podcast next week, because...
Yeah.
Oh my god!
What?
It's just Resident Evil 3, like, nostalgia bomb, man. I played this... The title screen is incredible. It's like Nemesis looking over you like he's just about to stamp on your face. It's incredible. And he's covered in like caution warning signs. Oh my god, it's so cool.
So Jay Slayer says, Rand, what's the difference with the CUs 36 to 52? What does that mean exactly? You want to answer that one, Jez?
No. We need dealer.
Yeah,
Dealer.
Dealer.
Come and answer that.
See, I don't know. Like I said, tech stuff not my forte. I can't. Maybe somebody in chat can
Oh man.
answer what the CU is. I mean, I think it's compute units if I'm not mistaken. But what's the difference between 36 to 52? Let's see what else we got here.
Dude.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 3 graphics are amazing.
Ooh.
They're amazing. This guy's face looks so. Capcom are just killing it, man. Capcom have really.
They've been doing really good.
I'm just stunned at how good this game looks right now.
Girthquake says, Rand, did you know the PS5 was less powerful? Indeed, the GPU on the PlayStation 5 is not as powerful as the Xbox Series X GPU. That is true. Thumperman says, hey, you really don't think the virus will save Stadia with everyone being home? That is something to think about, Jazz. What's better than the $300 Xbox lock cart? What about like basically a controller that you just get from Stadia for $60 so you can just play some games? You don't even need the console.
I mean that's the thing, right? It's like, will people go for that when they scale up? Like how much they're gonna get, like if they can get those licenses and stuff like that. Like I rail on Stadia because I hate Google. I hate their anti-competitive practices. I hate their company. I hate the things they do with their search monopoly, and I hate the things they do with their YouTube search monopoly as well. And I think they're a shady company, and I don't like them. So, there's my bias laid bare. But at the same time, I don't think you can count them out because they've got infinite money.
Yeah. P. Diddy says, hey, question, does Playground Games have a third game in development? Because did you see the picture of like a Last of Us-esque art thing? A lot of people were passing it along as that was Playground Games' like third game that they were working on. Do you see any of that?
Sorry, I'm gone, man.
You're gone.
Resident Evil 3 is amazing. It's
You're gone?
amazing. I'm so like, I'm just in awe at how amazing this is right now. I'm sorry, man. Like Resident Evil 3, like it's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah,
it looks so good.
Got less than a month. So what do you think? You think Playground has the third game they're working on that's like a Last of Us clone, Jez?
I have no idea, man. I have no idea. And there's the rumors that they're ramping up another studio, and all that sort of stuff. Like the stuff that Playground did with Forza Horizon is just like magical, and I'm just desperate to see what else they're working on. Like we both think that it's Fable, right?
I'm pretty sure. You never say like 100%, but I'm 100% it's Fable. And I'm pretty sure it's like Fable. It's not like Fable 4 or anything.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think they've shifted the tone, or they're going to keep it sort of comedic? Because like Fable was very uniquely Lionhead and the culture of that company. So I'm wondering if they're going to try and maintain the tone, or shift to something a little bit darker and stuff like that. I'm wondering,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it'll be Playground's take on Fable. I think they'll share the name and like Albion and maybe some of the lore, but I don't think it'll be as overtly comedic as the originals were. I think it'll be like its own thing, a little bit more serious, maybe a little bit more vain of some of the more popular like Assassin's Creed Odyssey and like Witcher 3 type like big RPGs. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like, oh, you're chasing chickens and you're kicking them and you're burping and all that stuff. Like I think it's definitely going to be more mature than that. So
yeah. By the way, was Resident Evil 2 4K 60 on the X? Do you remember?
Resident Evil 2 was 60 frames for sure. I don't know the resolution off the top of my head.
Because this is definitely 60 frames, and oh man, I'm in love right now. Jill's got like a dodge roll sort of thing that Leon didn't have.
Yes, she
I
does.
guess
I saw
he's
some of the
more
videos.
experienced or something.
Well, I think it was because Nemesis, like he's got like weapons and stuff, and you gotta like get away from him, and
Oh yeah.
so. Well, since Jez is really kind of
No, I'm happy to answer the question. I'm just
okay. Well, okay.
you
so
don't know what this game means to me, man. You don't know.
Miyamo says, "Hey, what happened to the Minecraft Super Duper graphics pack?" Well, it was canceled.
That was cancelled. Basically, the issue with the Super Duper graphics pack was basically that the Bedrock engine is sort of this scalable engine that runs across mobile devices, like ARM devices, different processing architecture and stuff like that. And the issue they had was that the engine wasn't built for having, unique graphics stuff like that, I think, or something like that. It sucks, but it is what it is. But they did say that they're working on a new graphics interface engine, whatever, for Minecraft called Render Dragon. Get it? Render Dragon, like Ender Dragon.
Yeah.
So that could change the game a bit, but Microsoft won't say whether Xbox Series X Minecraft is going to get ray tracing, because I guess it depends on how the Bedrock engine can adapt ray tracing or whatever. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and find out.
All right.
The lighting is amazing in this game.
You love that. You're gonna make me play, and I'm gonna have to record it for the podcast next week. See anything else here? L. Paul wants to know, hey, would Xbox ever make a big third-party deal again for a franchise? Like, I'm assuming he means like for
Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
I think Phil was on the record of basically saying he didn't like that.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
I think they would try to do that. Like, instead of getting the game exclusive, I think if they were to try to get that, they'd try to get a game, like a big third-party game, day one in the Game Pass.
Yeah, I think like if they do stuff like that, it's going to be more revolve around Game Pass or xCloud even and stuff like that.
I think Sony's going to be the one that does a lot more quote unquote money hatting. A lot of games for the PlayStation 5 in the beginning, at least. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to be the podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like and subscribe button. Me and Jazz, Twitter is in the description. Follow us there. We will be back next week. Who knows what we'll be talking about? Will Lockhart be revealed? I don't know. Will Microsoft still have more to talk about? Will we get any more PS5 information anytime soon? I don't know. It's always pretty interesting every single week in the video game industry. So, yeah, we'll see you next week. And keep it gaming and be safe, everybody.